Hi, this is Mrs. Kidman, and in this video, we're going to talk about how we rewrite quadratics from one form to another. Now, in previous videos, we've talked about a couple of different things. We've talked about how to go from standard form to vertex form, and we actually talked about two different ways we can do that. We can find the vertex using negative b over 2a, or we can complete the square. Those are two different ways that we can go from standard form to vertex. We also have talked about how to go from vertex form to standard form, how to go from standard form to factored form. Now, there are other forms. We can go between each of them. So let's take a look at a couple of these and rewrite them in another form. So this first one here, well, it's written in vertex form, and we can see that because it has that x minus h squared, or that square portion in there, plus k, right? So that's written in vertex form. So I want to rewrite it in another form. I can either rewrite it in factored form or in standard form. In this case, I'm just going to rewrite it in standard form. Remember, how we do that is we're just going to multiply it out. So I get y equals x minus 5 times x minus 5 minus 2. When I multiply this out, I get x squared minus 10x plus 25 based on our perfect square trinomial, minus 2, and this gives us y equals x squared minus 10x plus 23. Perfect. That was a great way. And in this case, we went from vertex form to standard form, and all we had to do was multiply it out. Guess what? This one over here is in factored form, and it is so easy to go from factored form into standard form because all you have to do, that's right, is multiply it out. So let's take a look at this one and multiply it out. So I want to FOIL this. And so I've got negative 1/2 times, and then x times 2x is 2x squared, x times 5 is 5x, negative 3 times 2x is negative 6x, and negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. And then I'm going to combine those terms that are alike, so negative 1/2 2x squared minus x minus 15, and then I'm going to distribute this negative 1/2 in there. And as I distribute it, I get negative x squared plus 1/2 x plus 15 halves. And that is how we would split it up into, that's how we would rewrite it in standard form. Now, as we have those are our two different examples. It's super easy to go from vertex to standard form or factored to standard form. And the reason why is because all we have to do is multiply those. So anytime you see something in vertex form, just change it to standard form if they ask you to rewrite it. Or anytime you see something in factored form, change it to standard form. And the reason why we want to change it to standard form is because it's so easy to go from standard form to factored form or standard form to vertex form. So therefore, if we are in vertex form, if we go to standard form, we can then take that next step to change it into factored form, or vice versa. If we're in factored form, we can go to standard form and then take that next step to go to vertex form. So let's take a look at what we can do with standard form. So remember, with standard form, we can either change it into factored form or into vertex form. So let's take a look at both of those as a quick reminder. So let's start by changing it into factored form. So the way we're going to do that is we are just going to factor our polynomial here. So I want two numbers that multiply to 9 and add to negative 10. Well, those two numbers are negative 9 and negative 1. So when we factor this, we get y equals x minus 9 times x minus 1. And boom, we have gone from standard into factored. Awesome. Okay. Now let's take a look at this other example. In this case, I want to go from standard to vertex. Now we talked about two different ways that we can do this. Now we talked about we can either find the vertex and do it that way, or we can complete the square. Now I want to look at this problem and decide which one I'd rather do. So looking at this problem, do you see how there's a 2 here, but there is a negative 16 and a negative 11? So if we factor out that 2, we're going to end up with a fraction here. And that's not going to be pretty when we have to complete our square. We're going to have these fractions, and nobody likes fractions. So whenever I look, if I see a number out here and I can't factor it out, I'm going to use the vertex. I'm going to find my vertex to go into vertex form. So let's do that. Let's do that negative b over 2a method. And so what we want to do is find our vertex. Remember, our x value of our vertex is going to be negative b over 2a. And so our b value is negative 16. So negative 16 over 2 times 2. Well, negative 16 is just 16 over 4, and 16 divided by 4 is 4. So that's our x value of our vertex. Our y value, on the other hand, is going to be very similar. What we're going to do is we're just going to take our 4 here, and we're going to plug it right back into our equation here. So I've got 2 times 4 squared minus 16 times 4 minus 11, and that'll give us our y value. So 4 squared is 16 times 2 is 32. And then we have to do negative 16 times 4, and that's going to give us a negative 64. And then we subtract 11 more. So as we simplify this down, 32 minus 64 minus 11 will give us a negative 43. And so as we write this in vertex form, remember our vertex is now going to be 4, negative 43. And so this will expand out to be y equals, our a value stays the same, so it's still going to be a 2 times x minus 4 squared minus 43. And that is how we can change. So remember, we can change from one form to another. All we have to do is rewrite it. If we are in vertex form or factored form, it's so easy just to change it into standard form by multiplying. If we are in the standard form, we can either change it to vertex form or factored form, depending on what's easiest and what we want to do, but either method will work great. So that is how we are going to rewrite from one form to another.